Toward the end of Parshat Acharei Mot, we find a very fascinating pasuk, and a very, very fundamental pasuk. Torah tells us, "You shall observe my decrees and my laws, which you shall carry out, and by which ye shall live. I am Hashem, v'chai b'hem." It's this injunction of v'chai b'hem that our rabbis learn from here. He shall live, that the commandments were given for the sake of life and not death. And therefore, if the performance of a commandment may endanger life, such as the familiar case of a patient who must rush to a hospital on the Shabbat, the need to preserve life supersedes the observance of the Shabbat. The Chai B'hem means that we are here to live by Torah. And indeed, as our friend on the Parsha points out, that martyrdom is demanded of a person only rarely. In general terms, v'chai b'hem, we're able to supersede the mitzvos in order to live. And he says, there's a general misconception about this passage in the Talmud. At a cursory glance, the Talmud seems to be saying that life is a higher value than the fulfillment of the mitzvos. What does this mean? How does one define the life that is so precious even though it's devoid of mitzvos? What makes it so precious? Watching the sunrise on the beach, reading a good book? So he quotes here the idea of Targum Onkelos, which Rashi as well echoes. V'chai b'hem means he shall live forever in the world to come. And Rashi says it has to be this way because everyone eventually dies. So it can't be v'chai b'hem, you'll do mitzvahs that you'll live forever. You won't. So v'chai b'hem means in the ultimate world. Accordingly, Rav Moshe Feinstein, Nikos Moshe, sees the Talmud as telling us something totally different. On the contrary, the most precious thing in life is mitzvos because we live by them. They bring us to the world to come, to eternal life. Therefore, in case of danger, it's better to violate a prohibition of the Torah if by doing so one will survive to fulfill many more mitzvos to years to come. As the Gemara in Yuma says, desecrate Shabbat for him once in order that he should observe Shabbat many times. The Chai B'hem is very much about living in this world. It's about doing Ritzon Hashem. It's about living a life of doing the will of God. And that ultimately will bring a person to the Chaye Olam Haba, the Chaye Netzach, to the eternal world where a person will live as a result of the mitzvahs he's done in this world. I'd like to try to take a look at this idea of the Chai B'hem on two levels, how in our lives we can see that the Chai B'hem is so applicable to our life, one a general, one more specific. And then as a third idea, Mirz Hashem, to be able to see how these concepts of a Chai B'hem that we'll speak about connects to the idea of Onkelos and Rashi, that's Chaye Netzach, it's the world to come. Let's begin with the first level of Daniel Ochyan, the Ur Daniel. He quotes the Ur Chaim HaKadosh. Ur Chaim says, Perush, Ki Adam she'oseh me'ava, a person who does mitzvos out of love, Yeshno gam b'tuv olam hazeh, he has goodness also in this world, Yachad al hagmul hakavur lo ba'olam hanitzchi, aside from the reward he'll get in the eternal world. It's not just that we're in this world for the next world. There's an idea of the goodness in this world itself. As the Gra said before he died, he would rather live one more hour in this world, even if it's on the expense of the next world. There's a value of this world. When a person does mitzvahs, when they learn Torah, and they feel the sweetness and the beauty in what they're doing, that is something which is invaluable. And he ends his piece by saying, Asher yaseh otam adam v'chai b'hem, im taseh mitzvot, kefi shechavei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you do the mitzvahs the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, hein yitznu lecha chayim. That's what's going to give you life. Life, by definition, is life the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu has deemed us to live it. Life is asiyas mitzvahs. There's a value in living life, Kirtzon Hashem, as the will of God. That's the Chai B'hem. You live within them, within the mitzvahs. That's your chayus, that's your life. Very interesting idea in the Shemen HaTov. You know, there's a number of times the Gemara speaks about that if you do, let's say Posecha Jedecha Ashrei 3 times a day, then you are a Ben Olam Haba. So what does this mean, that you're a Ben Olam Haba? So he explains, Ela Deba Olam Hazeh Hu Chai Ke Ben Olam Haba. It's not like you're automatically assured a place in the world to come, but rather it means in this world you're living like a Ben Olam Haba. Your outlook is the outlook of one who's living in the next world. Because, let's take this example. If you really understood that is that God gives every person what they need at the time that they need it, and you really lived with that mentality and that philosophy, you're living an Olam Haba perspective. You're living the perspective of Shleimus, of seeing the entire picture, perspective. So when you say Posecha Jedecha, it's not just saying it that you're Ben Olam Haba. It's living it, allows you that mentality. And he says likewise, V'chein kan. Aidei v'chai behem. Uperish hadvarim hu, denote